Oh my goodness. Has it been a pageantry of fake, phony outrage over Jimmy Kimmel? Consider this, America. The radical left has made more of a fuss, more outcry, more rage over the firing of talentless hack Jimmy Kimmel than they did over an innocent father, an innocent husband being murdered in cold blood, exercising exactly what they claim to defend and uphold. I'm going to share with you a detailed, as I always do, analysis breaking down exactly what happened, pointing out the utter hypocrisy because it knows no bounds from these Democrats. I'm going to tell you exactly what involvement the FCC chair Brendan Carr had, as well as why Jimmy Kimmel was really fired, why he was really taken off the air, and a whole lot more. You don't want to miss this. We also have former President Obama, disgraced divider-in-chief Obama, chiming in. Stick around to the end, too, if you want a copy of my notes. I always give them away for free. You know, I do my own due diligence, qualitative and quantitative research. I'm going to give them all away for free. But now you've got the hypocrites, Chuck the Buck Schumer, who should have retired 6 decades ago, crying, this is an attack. This is an attack on free speech. They're silencing comedians. Make comedy great again.
Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
That's exactly what happened, Mr. President. And this is coming from somebody who, as a sitting president of the United States back in 2020, 2021, was banned from social media, essentially Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, at the behest of the Biden administration, Obama, and the rest of them. So the hypocrisy is just out of this world. So I'm going to share with you a detailed analysis. This is the video that you want to share with everyone. Let's jump right in. Okay, so first we have Barack, disgraced divider-in-chief Obama, claiming today, posting this, after years of complaining about cancel culture, the current administration has taken it to a new and dangerous level by routinely threatening regulatory action against media companies unless they muzzle or fire reporters and commentators it doesn't like. And then he cites this Yahoo article, which I read is pathetic. This is precisely the kind of government coercion, Obama continues, that the First Amendment was designed to prevent, and media companies need to start standing up rather than capitulating to it. Mr. Divider-in-Chief, you are an absolute disgrace. You're an embarrassment. You propagated the Charlottesville hoax right before the election. It was a lazy lie. You've done nothing but divide this country. You've helped Biden and Kamala cheat in every way. You've architected, now that we know this, I did an entire video. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, confirmed this, as well as other regulatory intelligence agencies, that you were the architect of a 10-year coup on a sitting president, propagating, architecting, perpetuating the Russiagate hoax, which ended up to be a big nothing burger. And Trump still won because of independent media like me and because America was desirous of the truth and they were sick and tired of all the lies. So why don't you just sit this one out? Hakeem Nobody's Dream Jeffries jumps on the bandwagon. Brendan Carr. So this is what you're going to see. Unlike what happened to Roseanne Barr, who had a #1 hit show canceled off the air over one harmless tweet, there was no outrage then. What's going to happen to Jimmy Kimmel is he's going to be just fine. He got fired for an egregious lie, saying, even when there was all mountains of evidence proving the contrary, lying straight to the camera, politicizing public broadcast airwaves by saying that Charlie Kirk's shooter was MAGA, was a right wing, when every shred of evidence proves contrary to that. So he's going to be just fine because he's got the entire Hippocrat party. He's got the entire arm of the Democrat media apparatus in mainstream propagandist media. He's got the Obama, the Holly weirdos, the Clooney's. He's got them all behind. So Kimmel's going to be just fine. Roseanne had to go through hell. And I'm going to prove more than that coming up. So Jeffrey says a bunch of BS. Brendan Carr, the so-called chairman, has engaged in the corrupt abuse of power. He has disgraced the office he holds by bullying ABC, the employer of Jimmy Kimmel, and forcing the company to bend the knee to the Trump administration. FCC Chair Brendan Carr should resign immediately. So like everything, he's just an automaton. You know, it's so interesting because I did a little bit of research, and here's a liberal influencer who gets paid hundreds of thousands of dollars by the DNC to push their propaganda. This was back when Roseanne Barr, speaking of, lost her show, and he tweeted this out: big win in the battle of ideas and free speech. Roseanne said what she wanted to say. ABC made the business decisions that were right for them. Interesting. That sounds awfully familiar. So when it's somebody that you disagree with, somebody that you don't like, it's an attack on free speech. When it's somebody that you can't stand, well, it was just a decision by a private company. Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Chuck Schumer, this was back when Tucker Carlson was being threatened and actually was eventually fired. This is Chuck Schumer saying to Rupert Murdoch, this is a tweet, direct Tucker Carlson and other hosts on your network to stop spreading false election narratives and admit on the air that they were wrong to engage in such negligent behavior. So he wrote this big letter to Rupert Murdoch from Hakeem Nobody's Dreams Jeffries, saying Tucker Carlson should be taken off the airwaves. So another example of it's okay when it's somebody we don't like. That's just, business is business and doing the right thing. But when it's somebody that we like, when it's somebody who pushes our propaganda, this is an autocracy. This is fascism. Case in point, listen to this abomination. I can't believe, almost as bad as Ghetto Crockett. Listen to this absolute weasel, snake, vermin, doesn't have a shred of intelligence or integrity. Alejandro Foster Brown. The ink isn't even dry on Charlie Kirk's death certificate, and he said this today. Watch.
Donald Trump doesn't want a democracy. He wants a throne, and his cronies are clearing the way. The president and his lapdogs here in the United States Congress, the vice president, the FCC chair, the attorney general, secretary of state, and congressional Republicans are implementing a dangerous agenda to punish their opposition. Fascism is not on the way. It is here.
It's absolutely vile and disgusting. Everybody should write to his office, write to that ridiculous, ballsless, gutless Murphy behind him. Should have grabbed him by the shoulder and been like, dude, you need to stop, okay? This is the same inflammatory, violent language, violent accusations. You heard even Bill Maher, who is the smuggest liberal of them all, said enough. Stop calling them fascists. Stop calling them Hitler. It's not working. It's not helping. This is a guy who went to Donald Trump, had dinner with Donald Trump, had Charlie Kirk on his show and said these are amazing human beings. And then he got attacked by his audience and he went back to being a spineless dirtbag. But this is just days. They want us to forget. They haven't toned down their language one iota. Okay, well, here's the truth. The suspension of Jimmy Kimmel, again, you can get free copy of this. The link will be in the pinned comment as well as the description. The suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live yesterday on September 17th can be reasonably framed as an instance, not as an instance of government intervention, but as a voluntary market-driven decision by private broadcasters and ABC/Disney rooted in their independent assessment of community standards, business risks, and public interest obligations under existing FCC regulations. FCC Chairman Carr's comments were advisory, not coercive mandates. So there's all this hoopla now. The Democrats are saying, you see, he went on Fox News and he said, oh my, the warning, either the easy way or the hard. They tried to blame Brendan Carr, which had nothing to do with it. At its core, the argument hinges on the nature of Carr's statements. In interviews on Hannity and CNBC, Carr criticized Kimmel's monologue as potentially misleading and urged broadcasters to consider their, quote, public interest, end quote, which is absolutely right. There is a different dynamic, a different contextual licensee to license obligation that serves the public interest, which is unlike cable. That's why it's called public broadcasting. This is a phrase that is enshrined, really important at the middle of your screen, in the Communications Act of 1935, which requires FCC licensed stations to serve their communities without mandating specific content decisions. He framed his remarks as highlighting potential risks, e.g., fines, license reviews for patterns of news distortion, rather than issuing direct orders or threats of immediate action, which, by the way, he could have done that, but he didn't. Carr stated that broadcasters like Nexstar and Sinclair were, quote, standing up to serve the interests of their community, end quote, portraying their choices as proactive and aligned with voluntary compliance, not forced submission. So logically, this aligns with the FCC's historical advisory role. The agency has long commented on media content without formal intervention, as seen in past cases involving, quote, hoax rules, end quote, or indecency standards. Remember Janet Jackson, that Super Bowl incident, which that was back 20 years ago, 21 years ago, led to voluntary network changes without immediate revocations. Critics may point to Carr's, quote, easy way or hard way phrasing as veiled coercion, but there's no evidence. As always, you see, I bring the receipts. I bring a detailed, logical, step-by-step, factual, concrete example, evidentiary-based argument. As I used to teach at the university, the principles of rhetoric, this is called ethos, credible argument, ethos, pathos, logos. If every regulatory warning constituted, quote, intervention, end quote, routine FCC oversight would be untenable. Number two, and this is exactly what that liberal influencer Pac-Man said, broadcasters' decisions were independent and driven by community and business considerations. Key affiliates such as Nexstar and Sinclair preempted the show before ABC's broader suspension, citing their own evaluation of whether Kimmel's content met local community values. Even the president said, continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, framing it as a discretionary choice to avoid alienating viewers. Something I'm going to share with you that the greatest of all time, Johnny Carson, commented on, even Jay Leno hinted at. Jay Leno was number one for like 20 years before he was essentially pushed out by NBC against his will, by the way. He came back, that whole Conan O'Brien. Anyway, don't get me started. I love Jay. I think Jay has really been done wrong throughout this entire thing. Jay, if you're watching, for crying out loud, come on the show. Let's talk. Let's have a good time. I used to get people would say you look like Jay Leno when I was a kid. Okay. So that means we're both handsome, right? Quite frankly, probably some of the best looking guys. That's why me and Melania, we watch YouTube. Okay, stop, Nez. Pay attention. Oh my God. You got to have fun, man, for crying out loud. Life is short. Okay. So this guy said that, and he essentially was speaking for the American people. He essentially was saying, look, this is a contractual basis. We have affiliates, advertisers, sponsors. We have viewers to consider. This isn't political at all. This is like, this guy is literally issuing a blatant lie, and we're sick and tired of it. The trend line in America is we want authenticity. We want truth. We're sick and tired of these propagandist leftists destroying our country, destroying our cities, and they took action. Similarly, Sinclair's vice chairman, Jason Smith, emphasized a responsibility to educate and elevate respectful, constructive dialogue, underscoring internal judgment over external mandates. This is the free market. It's free enterprise. And affiliates often make programming calls based on ratings, advertiser feedback, and backlash, factors amplified here by public outrage over Kimmel's blatant. It was blatant. Never mind the fact that he's a talentless hack, as President Trump so adequately described. It was a blatant misinformation about Charlie Kirk's killer. And so that was the indefinite suspension, which was pragmatic. As one observer noted, the market said no, with station owners exercising their autonomy. But no, the Democrats and the hypocrites, the Swallows Wells, and the Chuck the Buck Schumers and the Hakeem Dime Store Obama, nobody's dream Jeffries, they're going to cry, cry, cry. I'll tell you why in a second. Number three, no formal government action occurred, undermined claims. So the big claim here, and I'm arguing this quite voluminously, if I may say so myself, $6 million word. The big argument here is, oh, this is government intervention. This is China. This is Putin. This is Xi Jinping. It's all BS. Critically, the FCC took no official steps. So here's the evidence. Here's facts, not feelings, facts. No investigations launched, no fines imposed, no licenses revoked. Carr's praise for the outcomes, calling it a, quote, turning point in media, end quote, was post hoc endorsement, not causation. Again, let me repeat that. There was never any steps taken by the FCC. Yes, he went on some interviews. Yes, he said some stuff, but it was post hoc endorsement, not causation. Legal scholars could argue this mirrors protected government speech under cases like Pleasant Grove City v. Simone 2009, where officials' public opinions don't equate to coercion unless backed by enforceable actions. Moreover, Kimmel's comments arguably flirted with FCC prohibited, quote, news distortion, end quote, or hoax rules. This is an actual law which ban intentional falsification in broadcasts. Carr's highlighting of this wasn't overreach, but a reminder of rules applied across administrations. Even Obama's FCC finding, stations for indecency, is something legitimate. If intervention were evident, we'd see immediate Democratic-led lawsuits or congressional probes yielding concrete evidence. Instead, calls for Carr's resignation appear partisan rather than substantiated. You could say that again, Jack. And so I want to just basically say, and you can get a full copy of this, that really all this had to do with is exactly what Pac-Man said. If you look at Jimmy Kimmel's ratings, as Trump so adequately portrayed over the last 5 years, they have absolutely plummeted. This is fact, not feelings. This is fact. And then adding the irreparable harm to brand by saying an out and out provable, total fabrication lie on public airwaves that are licensed, that you don't have any right to do. You're breaking all sorts of laws, combined with the worst abysmal ratings. You have no leverage, pal. Hasta la pasta. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Any private owner, CEO, any small, medium, large business would have done the same exact thing. You blew it. And to use your own words, Jimmy Kimmel, when talking about claims that were made against him, let's look at Jimmy Kimmel using his very own words, which just substantiate everything that we're saying here today. Watch this.
He decided to insinuate that I am a pedophile. This is how these nuts do it now. You don't like Trump? You're a pedophile. It's their go-to move. And it shows you how much they actually care about pedophilia. And as far as the, well, you say things about people all the time argument goes, yes, I do. It's not the same. It's not even close to the same. We say a lot of things on this show. We don't make up lies. In fact, we have a team of people who work very hard to sift through facts and reputable sources before I make a joke. And that's an important distinction, a joke about someone, even when that someone is Donald Trump, even a person who lies from the minute he wakes up until the minute he's smearing orange makeup on his My Pillow at night. Even he deserves that consideration. And we give it to him because the truth still matters. And when I do get something wrong, which happens on rare occasions, you know what I do? I apologize for it, which is what Aaron Rodgers should do, which is what a decent person would do. But saying someone is a pedophile is not an opinion, nor is it trash talk. Sorry, Pat McAfee. Aaron wanted to make false and very damaging statements like that we should do it in court so he could share his proof with like a judge. Because, you know, when you hear a guy who won a Super Bowl and did all the State Farm commercials say something like this, a lot of people believe. Hopefully many, many decent people out there who vote conservative or whatever you want to call what goes on now. I don't see anything conservative about any of it. But to those of you who are part of that, I want to say this, and I hope you'll listen and give it a little bit of consideration. If you are a member of a group that think it's okay to randomly call someone a child molester because you don't like what that person has to say, maybe you should rethink being a part of that group.
I couldn't agree more, Jimmy. I could not agree more. And by the way, for the record, Jimmy Kimmel was asked to apologize. Jimmy Kimmel was asked to issue a statement to Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk's family. He declined. So he's full of it. just like most of these hypocrites, completely full of it. I think this is important to cover here too, is all the people, because there's all this fake outrage, who experienced unbelievable, essentially hypocrisy and cancellation. And this was all cheered by people like Jimmy Kimmel, by the leftists. I have one more clip to play from Kimmel, who celebrated the ending of people who refused the C-19 jab. Roseanne Barr, I want to go through this. Fired by ABC, and her hit show, I mentioned this early, canceled overnight over one tweet. Hundreds of cast and crew lost their jobs. The left completely cheered. Gina Carano, speaking of now there's this whole big hoopla of, liberals and leftists saying they're going to cancel their Hulu and Disney subscription. Well, she worked for Disney. She was fired from The Mandalorian in 2021 for social media posts that didn't fit the left's policy. She was also dropped by her agency too. Megyn Kelly, fired by NBC in 2018. Her morning show canceled after comments about Halloween costume. Dave Chappelle, Netflix employees staged a walkout. Netflix is super leftist, and demanded his comedy special be pulled for, quote, transphobia, end quote. The left tried real hard to cancel him. Joe Rogan, the left pressured Spotify to drop him, running coordinated campaigns and advertiser boycotts over C-19 discussions. Tucker Carlson, Parler, J.K. Rowling, Mike Lindell, Alex Jones. The patterns are clear here. There's two sets of rules. The left can lie, Russia hoax, Covington kid smear, Jussie Smollett, and laugh about it, but the right gets destroyed. Accountability only ever goes one way. The left has spent the last decade perfecting cancel culture, destroying jobs, nuking shows, wiping platforms off the internet, and laughing while people's lives were ruined. But sure, Jimmy Kimmel smugly lying about a political assassination? Carte blanche. That's totally fine. Greatest to ever do it, Johnny Carson, in my view. If you're as old as I am, you remember Johnny Carson, staying up late and watching him. I liked Letterman too, and Leno. I mean, I liked Letterman and Leno, even though I think Leno was more successful. Johnny Carson said this. He was known for keeping his show lighthearted. He said, "Tell me the last time Jack Benny, Red Skelton, any comedian used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that? Why do they think since you have a Tonight Show, you will deal with serious issues?" Maybe then, Jimmy Kimmel, I still think you're a talentless hack, and I don't know how lucky you got, but maybe if you just would have actually stuck to just actually entertaining America and making people laugh. I know that's very hard for you to do instead of attacking Trump every single night. Maybe, just maybe, you'd still have a job instead of having free speech in the unemployment line. This is who they are, America. This is what they do. They have no vision. They have zero policies, zero strategy, zero track record, zero accomplishments. They have the worst approval ratings in U.S. history. And the only reason now they're making this such a big deal, how dare they even use the word fascist after what happened to Charlie? Oh, that just boils my blood to no end. They're so deathly afraid of having to get real jobs. That's why they threw out the red carpet and let anyone who's anyone, terrorists, criminals, gangsters, rapists, into our country by the millions, because they don't care. They're willing to sacrifice you, sacrifice me, our kids, our children, the future of our great republic, because they're scared to death. Once they go into the free market, which actually finally responded to Kimmel, they know they don't stand a chance in H. If you had any doubts about how scummy, how talentless, how worthless Jimmy Kimmel was, listen to what he said about people who refused. Just even had some questions. I didn't even mention how many people got fired because they refused to take the C-19 jab. Listen to Kimmel in his own words right now.
Hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy.
Please tap that thumbs up. We need this video to go viral. You're not going to see this anywhere. The whole media apparatus, liberal propagandist media apparatus, is going to back this schmuck on wheels. I need your help. Tap the thumbs up, share this with everybody, leave a comment. Oh, and by the way, last question, free poll. As Trump likes to say, free poll. Who do you think should take over the show now that Kimmel is gone? Adam Carolla, maybe? A conservative host? Who do you think should do it? Greg Gutfeld? Let me know in the comments down below. I can't wait. Again, if you want the free notes of everything that we discussed today, the link is in the pinned comment and in the description down below. It's absolutely free. Go click on that. You will get a free download of our notes. Check out these videos coming up on the screen right here. Tap my face right here to subscribe and follow. It's absolutely free. And as always, may God bless you and may God bless the USA and all who defend her. I'll see you soon.